Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you?
I am wonderful. And yourself?
I am doing quite well. It's a good day to be me.
Well, that's a good thing. Always good to say that. It's good to be me as opposed to being someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Well, I
no.
am super jazzed about the upcoming broadcast that we have. You know, we've got the 8 topics. Hopefully, we can get to all of them. I don't know if we'll get to all of them, but we'll get to at least most of them, I think. How was your weekend?
My weekend was quiet and spent most of my day yesterday in my garden, so that's always wonderful.
There you
Did a
go.
little, got a little pampering,
Yeah,
and so that's always wonderful.
good
And
deal.
that was it. It was the
Good
weekend.
deal. Good deal.
It don't ask for much nowadays, just being able to survive it.
I hear you. I hear you. I'm going to get your bio
All righty.
because I was all prepared except for that. Well, I thought I was going to get your bio. So let's kick this off, everyone. I am Javon Thomas. I'm a licensed retirement plan advisor. I help companies set up and manage their company-sponsored retirement plans. And my friend and colleague is Crystal Mitchell, and this is who a lot of her is. There's still quite a bit more of her, but this is who part of her is. She's a business coach and consultant. She is the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions, co-director of Recycling Black Dollar. She's the co-host of the Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert. It's another weekly broadcast show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Good. All
Glad
right.
to be here.
Yeah, we are so glad you are here as well. You know, I was thinking about this broadcast, and I got to thinking, what is it that we really need to focus on? And as you know, we talk about how to invest in the market, especially in retirement plans. We talk to people about terms that they may not have heard before and things like that. But we rarely talk about what it is that the plan sponsor can do in order to help their participants through these tough times. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. That is, how can plan sponsors who want to, uh, rather than fire and forget, they actually want to help their participants get the most out of their retirement plans. And as you know, when markets swing sharply, emotions run high, people get scared. And so I'm going to talk about a few things plan sponsors can do uh, in order to assuage that.
Okay, sounds fantastic to me.
All right, cool beans. So let's go ahead and jump right in. One of the things that I really like, and I got this from an article from Plan Sponsor Magazine, similar to the topic there, to the title of our broadcast rather. One of the things that it suggested, and I can't agree more, is don't wait for the participants to actually panic before you start to talk with them. Right? Reach out to them first. That is, put some steps in, do the education about what is long-term investing, do the education about what is a retirement plan, what's it supposed to be used for. And if you have someone like myself, which you should, that is an advisor to the plan, make sure that person, when they do education, they talk about not only just what a stock and a bond is, but how this plan is supposed to work, right? And so first thing on my list is be proactive in the communication. Reach out to those participants and say, "Hey, this is what's going on," and I think one of the best things is just as a plan sponsor, as someone who's a leader of the plan, just acknowledge to your participants, yeah, we're in a tough time. I'm feeling it. You're feeling it. and we need to do something about that. You know.
I agree. I agree. Because last week, boy, everybody should have been a little bit like it was like watching a tennis match, man.
Oh yeah,
It was
up and down and around.
insane,
Oh
and
yeah. Mhm.
there's some things happening that we know not supposed to be happening, but they are happening. And so yeah, yeah, it's very quite volatile right now.
Mhm. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, let's move on to the second one. And I know this is one that you know that I'm really passionate about, and that is keep that long-term view. Uh, and that means a couple of things. That is, number one, don't let your emotions sway you with regard to what you should do. I like to say that you should move in and out of the market based on what's going on in your life rather than what's going on in the market. And that's tough. But I think as a plan sponsor, we really have to do that. We really have to say to folks, hey, we know how this thing works. We know that when the market goes down, that's a buying opportunity. When the market goes up, that's an opportunity for us to reap those rewards. And we also know, as a plan sponsor, hopefully your plan sponsor advisor is telling you that time in the market is dramatically more important than timing the market. That is, being in the market for a long time is a lot better than trying to catch the latest uh, the latest thing, right? Because
Mhm.
it's very difficult to predict the market. In fact, I think I've said a couple of times on our broadcast, if I could predict the market, I probably wouldn't be doing this broadcast. So it's very tough to do. Sometimes people get it right, but usually we are reacting to what's going on. And retirement plans are set up so that you really can't take advantage of something before it happens.
Yeah.
It was very tough to predict, right? Because we use mutual funds by default, and those don't get traded until the end of the day, and they don't get priced until the end of the day. So even if you could, most plans don't allow this, but even if you could make hundreds of trades a day before the market closes, and I'll just do a little side note here. That's why one of the reasons why people like to invest in ETFs is that they may be able to make some intraday trading. Um,
Mhm.
Typically, in a retirement plan like a 401k, you don't get that benefit. Sometimes they're a little less expensive, but you don't get the benefit of intraday trading. So mutual funds are set up so that you can only get one trade, right? And
Mm.
price is only going to be published one time. You got one
Mm.
time.
One
So
time.
one time. so it really doesn't help you to try to time the market because it's set up against you, and by reason, for a good reason, and that is we want folks to have a well diversified portfolio with the right mix of stocks and bonds for them, and we want to make sure, and we'll talk about this later, that they rebalance on a regular basis, right?
Mhm.
And that their risk tolerance is appropriate for them. And as a plan sponsor, being the person that salutes that actually uh, bears that out is a good thing. It shows stability. It shows that your folks can trust you, that you not only you care about them and their finances, you understand what they're going through, but you also have a plan, and that is long-term investing. So um, that's a big one for me. So the first
Yeah.
two, be proactive, start doing this training way before stuff happens. Start telling people how this plan works way before stuff happens. And number two, let's do that long term. Keep the long term thing. It's not saying, and I think this is where it is worth clarifying because I think maybe sometimes we get uh, pigeonholed into advisors are advisors are advisors. Um, but in a retirement plan, my job as a retirement plan advisor is dramatically different, and the rules are different. It's like baseball and softball. They use some of the same equipment, but the rules are different. So inside a retirement plan, we want to buy low and sell high, and we know we only got one trade a day. That's different than being outside the plan.
Right.
So, okay. The other thing that really caught my attention when I was reading this article was um, keep messages clear and simple. Stay on point. This, there's there's a couple of terms that people use outside of the market that we really don't use outside, rather in the world of retirement of financial advice that we don't necessarily use on the inside with retirement plans. Um, One of those is standard deviation. Another one is beta risk. Um, it's a lot better to say stick to your plan, right? Markets come over on time. We don't need to get fancy. Try to tell people that we know what's going on, and no, that never helps anybody. Just- the next one I would say, number 4, is it says here, stay consistent in tone and content, right? So I think it's important for plan sponsors, especially, to go back to what it is to be a long-term investor, to go back to buy low and sell high, to go back to have the right mix of stocks and bonds, reevaluate, rebalance on a regular basis, to go back to make sure that you have the portfolio that's going to work for you and that you understand why it's working for you. I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I know I'm going to get cards and letters, so bear with me. But I don't think people should stay away from knowing what's in their plan and seeing that it's going to go up and down. Many of my clients, what you call them, they say to me, I just don't look at it. Every time I look at it, I just get disappointed. Either it's not going up fast enough or it went down. And God bless them. But I would say that knowing what you have and seeing what's going on around you and knowing how your portfolio was affected, I think that's a good thing. Reacting to that, not necessarily, but just knowing, so that when real things happen, like real things, when things dramatically happen like they have been for the last month or so, you're okay. We've got some turbulent times behind us and definitely some more turbulent times above it or in front of us. And that's going to do some stuff to your portfolio. So not looking at it and just kind of wondering and not knowing about it, it's kind of like me not going to the doctor and being afraid to go. But looking at it and knowing that, we're in a tough time now, I'm buying cheap. Having the correct mindset. I'm buying cheap. This is going to come out and it's going to benefit me in the end. Yay, let's go. And one of my favorite expressions, I now that I know, I kind of made it up. When the blood is running, get in. When the blood's running in the streets, get in. It's hard to admit that I just made that up because it sounds so good.
Right now it is right. The blood is running in the streets, so it's actually a very apropos comment. You might want to, wherever they put quotes and then you have your name behind it, you might want to invest in
Put that in there.
Yeah. And make sure that it is attributed to you.
Yeah, I might want to do that. As much as I wanted to say that I got it from someplace else, I think I kind of added and ad-libbed and moved some things around and made it work for me.
And that's how things work, right? So I think you should put your stamp on that. Make that yours.
When the blood is in the street, get it. Yeah.
Especially now, because with the way the market is, and then I've talked to a couple of people, especially those that work in companies, and unlike myself, where we kind of have entrepreneurs have a little bit more control,
right?
of how you make your money, right? So,
Hmm.
if it's not happening in one space, you go to another space, and you have your expertise in those areas. So, you can be more diverse than most individuals. But if you're working in a company, your money's coming from one place, and if you're
True.
your retirement plan, you're banking on trying to get out of here in the next 5, 10 years. You probably will stock up on anything that calms the nerves right now, and whatever that might be.
It is
But
true. Yes.
because it could be a little unnerving right about now if your only sole income is your job, and your job happens to be in one of those vulnerable areas, and you don't know if it's going to be here or not. Yeah, it could be a little nerve wracking, and I would say if I were working as an employee, I'd be a little scared to come back out on the job market right about now. It's just too
Yeah.
volatile out there.
Yeah, I hear you. It's very easy for us to sit back in our little pious seat and say, the economy is doing all this and all of that. Um, there's an old expression that suggests when your neighbor loses his job, well, we call that a recession. But when
Hmm.
you lose your job, that's a straight up depression, right?
Right,
So
exactly.
I think we really have to, we as advisors and folks that are leaders of organizations, we really have to be mindful of exactly what you said, that now is a tough time to get out there in the labor market. And now is a time when people are looking at their portfolios and going, I want to stop this job thing in the next 5 to 10 years. What does that mean to me? Right? It's all well
Hmm.
and good to say, oh, Javon, yes, 13, 14, 15 years from now, we're going to have another crisis and the market's going to go up and down. But when it's your money and you want to live off of it, we have to be cognizant of that, and we have to make sure that we're not flippant about it, and we have to make sure that as leaders and advisors that we understand that people need help now. They
Yeah.
don't need platitudes. They need to
Hmm.
know, what should I do. And that doesn't mean that we have to change the story, but it does mean that we have to make sure we meet people where they are.
Exactly. You have to meet people where they are, and it is and it's not just one thing that's volatile right now. It's pretty much the soul of this country is kind of vulnerable right now. We're in a turning point, I think, and so just knowing how to deal with that. I do think the more educated you are, the more you read, your own selective reading, so you understand fully what's happening.
Hmm.
I think that's very important right now. You just can't listen to everything that you hear. You have to verify it and see how it affects you and your family.
I could not agree more. I think that most of us are starting to realize that and there has been uh, a something that's been growing in our national culture that is different than it used to be. There was a time when um, uh, in this country where you could always go west, young man. Well, west is not as far away as it used to be.
Hmm.
And there was a time when freedom meant that you gave that person who you didn't like the opportunity to say what they wanted to say because they had the freedom and you had the freedom.
Hmm.
And now I think the expectation is that you're going to be doing better. Your kids are going to be doing better than you, and that's tough to get. And I think that freedom of us giving other folks gravitas who think different than we do, who come from different places than we do, that's eroding, right?
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think that some of the issues that we have are symptoms based on that change in our national culture. And I'll just be quite honest with you. I don't think it's a good thing. I think, thank goodness, we have some of the laws we have in place so that we can at least slow that down. Uh, you know, but that doesn't mean that it's by any means going to stop. The will of the American people is being tested now, I believe.
Definitely is, and not just the will. Obviously, things that we, the Constitution, something that the country was built upon. It is, I think, it's at the end of however this matric, however this pans out.
Mm,
There's going to have to be some changes in the Constitution that addresses what could happen in this modern age. The Constitution is 250 some years old, right? 249, something like that. 1776 it was signed in. So at that point in time, that was a different type of person, a different type of people. And so some of the things that we are incurring right now or encountering would never even have been something that the forefathers would have even thought of. First of all, we didn't have all the modernness that we have. Um, and so there are going to have to be some changes, and that's what we're going to require of our politicians and here on. And I think also us being more involved. I think years and years ago, even with we talked about before, people just kind of let the company manage your retirement and your future, and you didn't really have much input or really didn't even think about it. But I think those days are over. I think we as American people have to be educated as well, and it's going to be on it's going to have to be something that you're going to have to take care of because there are those in power that don't want you to know. So it's on you. It's just like if we use biblical or if you're spiritual at all, God always says that here's the framework, but it's upon you to build on that frame, right? I mean, I can give you the wisdom, or as Jesus said, I'll give you the here's the lake and it's full of fish, but you got to go do the fishing, right?
mm.
So we can't allow other people to think for us and make decisions that affect our family and our way of life and our retirement. We have to become much more proactive in what's happening.
I think you're making a really, really good point there. The days, and I think I'm not exactly sure how to say this, but I believe what I want to say is that things have become a bit more complicated in a way than they were.
Hmm.
And I think that is a function of technology, but it's not because of technology. I think we as people have given up much of what made America what it is today. And a lot
Hmm.
of that comes from the way we treat people
Hmm.
and the our ability to take care of ourselves. And we have to change because things change. And I think we have to get used to that concept of change because um, there was a time, and you and I, we've talked about this before, where um, your grandfather or great grandfather, he might pass down to you some type of farm implement that you use that's been in the family for generations.
Hmm.
Well, that's not happening with your laptop.
No.
2 or 3 years, that thing is ready to go, right? And that's a
Hmm.
major piece of the connection to the world. That's not happening with your phone. And
Mm-mm.
so, um, the idea that you have a family of XYZ folks that do this, they've been doing this for generations, that has dramatically changed. For the good or for the bad, I'm not going to make that judgment, but we know it's definitely different. And the jobs that most of us have today are probably not going to exist in 15 to 20 years.
Yeah.
They're going to be so different that we're going to have new jobs. And so
Hmm.
therefore, I don't know if this is a Bible verse. You could probably help me with that. But, worrying about the way that it used to be,
Right.
fixating on The good old days, A, depending on who you talk to, they weren't that good. And B, and B, worrying about them is not going to do any good. We've got tomorrow to think about. And I think that's a tough thing for us as Americans. You know, I think many of us are starting on both sides of the table, be you Republican or Democrat, liberal or conservative, both sides of that table or that issue are starting to think, okay, what's this going to mean to our children?
Right.
What are we going to leave for our children? Rather than what are we kicking down the road? What are we leaving for our children? And those are some heady discussions for us to have. And it's tough to have those discussions if you're busy out on the farm. But now that we have time, because we have this technology, we can start to do some pretty intense thinking about what we want this country to be. And it's going to take that, because you hit the nail on the head. The days of making sure that someone is going to take care of your future.
Right.
And I don't care if you're male, female, or green or orange. The idea that someone is going to take care of you so that you don't have to worry about it, that's not happening. And if it is happening, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
It is on us. We have to figure it out. I'm kind of going through this now. Finally, I went to the doctor and he said to me, all right, how can I help you? I mean, he had already told me several times.
Now, here's how I'm going to help you. How can I?
Now he said, all right, the ball's in your court, Jevon. What do you want from me? Right. And I think the idea of my thinking of, I'm just going to, go to this guy and he's going to cure me and take care of me and make sure that my life is right. That's just not happening.
No,
I have to get in.
Yeah. In fact, nowadays, and so I think this is something that we carry through, should have for all of our lives. Nowadays, you got to be up on it more than almost he's up on it, because of the fact that, just how much he's going to intervene based upon the insurance carrier and who's going to pay him is how much time you get, right? So that's really what it comes down to I got 20 minutes to see you. So in that 20 minutes, you better have your list.
So true. Yeah, you need to be ready to take advantage of. And he's a good dude. I like him a lot.
Right, but you better come to me with a list and talk fast, because I got 20 minutes with you. Yeah. So with that being said, I think it's up to us. We have to be much more involved. I mean, it's right. I mean, even from a political standpoint, we have to be involved, because if you leave it up to other people, everyone has their own needs and agendas. And most times those needs and agendas don't replicate yours, the little man. What do they call it? Main Street? Our Main Street needs are nowhere near the elite's needs, or the ones that are underneath the elite's needs, right? Billionaires we can't be, and this is something that really has bugged me for a long time. Billionaires are not a voice of reasoning for your household.
Yes.
They are reasoning for their household what they're doing, their household. And if they're speaking, they're not speaking for you.
No.
Because they're not paying the taxes you paying. They're not dealing with the struggles that you have. I can guarantee you, all these people that are out there making these decisions right now, they ain't been in a grocery store probably in the last 45 years. If they're in their 70s, they have not been in a grocery store in 45 years. They don't even know how to walk in there. It'd be like going into a foreign country. Oh, wow, look at that. They have oranges. Oh, man, look what they got over there. Right? That's what it would be like. So we down here on Main Street, we doing Main Street stuff.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. You really, really are. I think you're right in so many areas, because the people that are going to fight the wars and pay the taxes and be the center, those people are not the people that are making tons of money and are quote unquote ruling this country. So it is upon us to get involved. And that's why I think the Constitution is such a great thing, because it does suggest an involved populace,
Yes.
right? And thank goodness for that. I mean, whoever wrote that those founding fathers were pretty bright. So, but you're right. If you want to make it happen, if it's going to be, it's up to me. You have to get involved. You have to get educated. Gone are the days where we could assume that just because you are intelligent and smart, that your moral compass fit with everybody else, and it made you do the right thing for that person who is of lesser means. Now, I think you nailed it right on the head there. Part of the reason that these folks got to be where they are is because they were stepping on all the other people who were of modest means, and they're still going to do that because they think that's right and their God-given ability, and we have to be
Yeah, we have to
resolute
take,
and
we
we
have
hold
to
them
be,
accountable.
well, we have to be more proactive. And we have to remember those that are billionaires and millionaires today, they had to step up because this is generational for them. This has been handed to them. They didn't have to work for it. It just was like, okay, dad's gonna die or mom's gonna die, and here you go. Here's your new life. This is your life, right? And so you're in control of it. You do what you need to do. I wish my mother had left me a bankroll like that when she left this planet. She didn't. So I still had to work. So if we don't learn anything, uh, what's happening in our world today, and I think I must have said this 5 years ago as well when we had the pandemic, um, we have to be in control, and we have to find the information. We have to make sure we have the right people that are advising us and mentoring us. People that live, who kind of live in our same little glass house, right? Somebody that gets it.
Common
Somebody
man
that,
type of things
yeah,
here.
that common man kind of thing. And it's
Round
interesting.
the way, girls, time of luck. It's time.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, and I went to see the play 1776,
Uh-huh.
and with Hamilton that he created, and it's really amazing. You guys should really see it because when you learn about um, uh, uh, the Revolutionary War, and when you learn about Civil War, you're in classroom and you're a kid, so it's like yeah, that happened hundreds of years ago. I wasn't a kid. I wasn't there. But however, as an adult, when you see history and how they signed the Declaration of Independence and what they went through, and each person came from a different perspective,
Mm.
and that is what took so long to get it signed, was
Mm-hmm.
because they were all coming from different perspectives, far as class, far as whether you were a working man or you inherited your health, or you were committed to the South agenda and philosophies, or you were in the North, or how far you wanted to step away from what the South was doing. It was just so many things on the table, and those are the conversations they were having. So also know that when we have our conversations, you and I can relate, and people that are in our same world that we're in, we all can relate to each other. But you can have that same conversation two doors up, and they're like, "What are you talking about? That's not how my life is, right?" Or three
Mm-hmm.
doors down,
Mm-hmm.
and even what we have is more than what they have.
Mm.
So you got to work on this part yourself. I think this is maybe what, if we're looking on a bigger spiritual thing, this is where we are right now. You cannot be disinvested from your own life.
I think you're making excellent points, and we're about to run out of time. But I would just say, and I'll let you get the last word. But I would just say that you are spot on with regard to our founding fathers. They did come from different lifetimes, life spots,
Hmm.
different ways of being wealthy, different jobs. Everything was different, and they had to come together to make things work. And that has always been the deal. right? That is the beauty of our American culture, that it is different and we have to come together to make it work. And those of us who would just decide, you know what, my way is the best way, and I know how to lead this, and you need to do my thing. Those are definite threats to our democracy, our way of life, and frankly, to the thing that makes America such a wonderful idea. It's supposed to be messy. It's not supposed to be simple. It's not supposed to be something that everybody thinks is all great. Um, Dissent is patriotic, right? And so, on that, I know we have four more of these. Maybe we can do those next week. But I
Okay.
definitely want to hear your last word on uh, on the topic. And I just like hearing what it is that you have to say. So take us out of here.
Well, far as it, as being an entrepreneur, I guess we're a little bit more research bound, I guess, because we're always, there's no one day the same as the last day.
Right,
And so you're always spending your time doing and researching, what should be your next move. But I think it's
right,
really, really important, and we'll talk, we'll probably hit on this next week, is, educating yourself on what's going on. Don't just listen to all of the pundits online. Do your own. And I know a lot of us are like, okay, I just want to stick my head in the sand and come up on the other side of this. But no, this one's important, guys. You can't stick your head in the sand on this. You have to do your own research and see how it's going to affect your family and how it's going to affect you. And you can't let your boss be the one that makes all the decisions about your retirement. It's yours. They're gonna go and do their thing, and it's probably not gonna be nowhere close to what your thing is. Trust me on that one. And so, if you're wanting a different life, and you want it to be fruitful and fun until the day you decide that, until God decides you're not going to be here, then that's on you.
I don't. Sage advice there. I don't know if that's. I mean, that's a whole different show that we need to talk about. But I don't think it can get any more clear than that. It's on you, and I totally, totally believe that. I am
Hmm.
definitely in support of you, and I think that's going to be where we're going to leave it right now. We've got four more things to talk about next week, and just a little teaser there. Ooh, they're so exciting,
I
and
know.
we had some really cool things. And everybody, this is Javon Thomas signing off. Crystal gave us that wonderful last word. We will see you next week on Conversations on the Patio. Have a good day now.
Bye bye, everyone.